So today's video is a bit different. I normally do my foiling videos using my GoPress and foil, which I've had since 2016. So I've had it a long time now and it is still working absolutely fine. But it is now at least 8 years old. So I thought, what am I going to do if it does stop working? Because I would be completely lost if I couldn't do my foiling. So the answer is, because the GoPress and foil is no longer available in the UK, in fact I think it's only available in Australia, if it's available there, the replacement would have to be a Spellbinders Glimmer. Nothing wrong with the Glimmer. It came out after the GoPress and foil, and so basically I'd already got a foiling platform when it came out, but I had the opportunity to get one at a really good price, so that I've future-proofed my foiling. I've now got a Spellbinders Glimmer sitting on my desk. Here it is over there, but I've still got, there's my Glimmer, and I've still got sitting on my desk, I've still got sitting on my desk my GoPress and foil. It's sitting over there. So sorry about the wobble there. So I'm still using both, but I thought I'd do a video just kind of confirming what I've always said, is that, you know, most of the techniques I do, you can do exactly the same on a Spellbinders Glimmer, but I'm actually going to use the Glimmer to demonstrate them. So my setup is, I've got Big Shot Plus as my die cutting machine there. Next to it I've got my Glimmer, and then I work on a mat in front of me. Okay, I'm at my dining room table. I don't have a craft room, so I don't have lots of space for lots of different gadgets to be out all the time. But the ones that are, when I'm crafting, are my foiling platform and my die cutting machine. So I'm going to make a card, and I want to look at the technique I do, where I use like a reef making technique to repeat foil round the edges of something or in the corners. So technique first, and then I'm going to move on to making a card, and I'm going to make a card where this is going to be the background, and then I'm going to make a topper for it. I've already stuck down some of the bits to speed things up. I'm going to do some foiling on this background though, so I've not put any tape on it yet, and I've not stuck it down because I need to do my foiling on that first. But as I say, technique first. So got that out of the way. So I've got here a 4-inch piece of card, and I'm going to use a corner foil stamp. This is a Crafter's Companion one. Spellbinders do sets. Actually, when they supply this, they supply 4 of them. I think in theory that you could do 4 at once, but trying to get 4 stamps all stuck down and to foil all at once, I'd rather do them one at a time. So as I say, I've got this foil stamp, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it on my piece of card, and I'm going to use a magnet from my stamping press. So it's a neodymium magnet, and it's wrapped up in masking tape to give me a handle to get hold of. Yeah, so it's really important that you can grab the handle, because otherwise it'll heat up and you won't be able to get it off. You won't be able to, you know, get it off your card when you want to. So that's going to go on there, and that holds that in place. Okay, so the next step, stand up and point the camera at the Glimmer. So here's my Glimmer. It's warmed up and ready to go, so it's hot, and I've got some pieces of tape here, and I'm going to turn my card over, and I'm going to just put them on the card at the bottom, sticking out like this, so that I can actually hold my card in the right place on my Glimmer. Okay, and also on my Glimmer I've used fine line Sharpie to actually put some marks that I can line up with on the plastic edging. So I'm just going to line my card up there and then put my tape down. I do find it's easier if the tape is stuck to the card first, because then I don't get my fingers near the hot area. Okay, let it flop down and then fairly quickly hold through the card your hot foil stamp and slide the magnet away. Okay, so that's in place. Then I can flip my card back out the way and heat up my hot foil stamp. I've already cut my foil to the right size. So as soon as that's ready, I do like to let it heat up and then put the foil on and foil straight away after that. I find I get less overfoiling with that, although I've also found that's less of a problem on the glimmer anyway. So we'll just wait for that to have its time to heat up. The beauty of it doing this way is I only have to heat the foil stamp once. There we are, the light's gone solid, so I can put my foil on, flip my card down. Now, because my foil sticks out and I don't want to get foil on my green plate, I'm going to put just a piece of copy paper. It's not adding any pressure, it's just a piece of copy paper. And then put my plates on top and then carefully slide this out. And I'm going to roll it through my Big Shot Plus. Okay, so turn that back. So my tape here is still holding my card in place. So I can flip that up and I can peel my foil and I can see that my foiling has done quite nicely, and then peel the card away and move the tape around. Now you might want to number the edges of your card on the back so that you can keep track of where you've got to. Okay, and then I'm going to line it up with exactly the same mark on my glimmer. And put the tape back down, and it's still lined up with my foil stamp. I'll take my next piece of foil. I don't have to do the heating timer again because my foil stamp is still hot. Copy paper and my plates. Pull it out. As in that way my card can't move when I pull the platform out, or when I'm manoeuvring it to go through the die cutting machine. It's held in place. Just moving my tape again. So I've now got my tape at the bottom here. I'm going to be foiling up here. find it in the right place. There. Next piece of foil, copy paper, plates, make sure I'm going to get this in the right place there. So my tape needs to be down the bottom there. I'm just checking which corner I'm foiling. So the last one, there. Let's have a look at what we've got. Get my tape off. So there, that would look really nice for sentiment, or stamp something in the middle of it, or use a different foil stamp. Lots of them come with dies now, so you can raise something up. So, you know, that's a really good basis for a topper for a card. Fairly quick to do, because you don't have to keep waiting for things to heat up. Okay, but you don't have to just use corner foil stamps. Okay, and that's where I'm going with this video. So, take that one off. Okay, and now I want my piece of pattern card, and that's something else I find people don't always think of putting foiling onto their pattern papers and pattern cards, or even coloured card. It doesn't have to be a white piece of card. You know, demonstrated with a piece of white card, because that's easy for you to see what's happening, and cheap and cheerful card. But as I say, it doesn't have to be. So I'm going to use this. Now this is actually a set of press plates and die for the BetterPress. I will put the name of it in the video description, because I can't actually remember it off the top of my head. Okay, this also comes with dies to cut out, and there's this one, and there's this one, and there's a couple of other small flowers and some sentiments to come with it. So it's a really useful set. But I'm going to use this to put some foiling on kind of the corners of this, but kind of just giving the impression that there might have been a bigger pattern there. So I'm going to use it at the edge here. Okay, I'm going to hold it in place with a magnet. So again, same magnet. Magnet goes on the back. But I need to be careful when I'm positioning this. Now, you're going to have to be careful with this if you're using just a 6-inch wide die cutting machine, so that the glimmer fits through it just exactly. You might run into problems with this, with not being able to use such a large piece of card. This is a 5-inch square. But if you've got a wider die cutting machine, then the card can just hang over the edges, and that's fine. You can hang over the edges of the glimmer, okay? It's important that the die cutting machine is wide enough for the card, rather than the foiling plate. So I've positioned this quite randomly, but it's, you know, just to, as I say, give some interest around the edges. Okay, so I'm going to put it there. Then I'm going to figure out how I'm going to put it on the glimmer, and I think I'm going to put it that way. Yeah. In fact, let me bring my glimmer over for a moment. Now it is hot, so I'm going to be a bit careful, but you can see, hopefully, I'll just put it on its side like this for a moment. Hold it, I'm just going to zoom the camera in. Hopefully you can see there, zoom too far, and on this edge where I've just put some marks, and as I say, I've used a fine line Sharpie to do that, just so I've got some places to line card up with. It just helps me, rather than put a different mark every time, I've just put a few useful ones in. I've got ones either side that sort of would give me in the middle if I'm using a piece of card that big, or if I'm using a narrow piece of card, I quite often use that one. Okay, so that's there. Let's put that in so it gets the temperature. Okay, I'm going to put my tape on the bottom of this on either side. Okay, and then I'm going to put this on. I want to put it on so that the foil stamp is completely on the glimmer. I don't want to leave that sticking out the side. I'd hate to damage it. Okay, so let's come over here. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Move out of the way. So put this over here. So to make sure I get this foil stamp completely on the glimmer, sorry, that's my doorbell. Let me just pause a moment. Okay, so I'm putting this down. So the foil stamp is completely on the glimmer. The card isn't actually overhanging, but I've lined it up with the mark that's right over this side, so I know as I turn it round, that's the mark I've got to line up with. Hold it down, and you might want to get maybe another piece of card or something just to give some insulation, and just slide your magnet off. I normally do it more quickly than that, but obviously the doorbell rang. So I've got my card in place, got that. I've already cut my pieces of foil, so I just need to heat that up. So while we're waiting for the topper on this card, I'm going to use this hot foiling plate. Okay, and I'm going to foil that in white. Now this is like a shield with like a floral arrangement around it, and when you look at it from the front, it's quite easy to see which way up it goes. There's like a point there, and a point at the bottom. But when you turn it over, I find it quite difficult to keep track of where these top corners are. So what I've done is I've used my fine line Sharpie, and I've marked where these corners are and done a horizontal line between them, so that when I'm putting it on a piece of card, I can actually figure out which way around it's going to be. Okay, because depending on my pattern paper, it might be important to know where the top is and where the bottom is and get things straight. So that's a tip for that. Okay, so I think that has probably warmed up now. Yep, there we are. So can't remember which way around the foil goes. I think it's that way. Flip that down. Again, the foil's sticking out, so copy paper. And then my 2 pads. Okay, so look at back, and that's folded really nicely in that corner. So pick it up, remove the tape. So I've done that corner, do that one next. So I'll remove my tape. It doesn't matter which way around you go, clockwise or anti-clockwise, or even randomly, as long as you keep track. And make sure you do all 4 corners and don't do any corners twice. So I'm doing this corner now, so my tape's at the bottom, line up with my mark and the bottom of the glimmer. Piece of foil. This also makes it really quick. If you've got foil that tends to curl up, because you can put the card down on it really quickly, I find it really helps with that as well. Next corner, remove the tape. I do find it best to have 2 pieces of tape with the glimmer, in case you're wondering, because this surface is quite shiny, and I find that if I don't, the card does tend to get, or the tape tends to get pulled with the pressure of the rolling action. Now make sure, as you put it down, that you know you've got your tape on the right edge to fall in the correct corner. Because I've done it, I've accidentally folded corners twice, and it doesn't exactly line up, so it does mean you've then wasted a piece of card, because, or you need to cover it up with sentiment or something. Now, when I'm rolling through the die cutting machine, I go forwards and backwards because I haven't really got enough room behind my die cutting machine to easily go all the way through. So I go forward and back. Let's have a look at that. Let's get my tape off. And there. Camera's still zoomed. all my corners. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was the tape I use. Now I use a really good quality decorator's masking tape for delicate surfaces. It's got enough stick to hold things still, and I won't say never, but very, very rarely damages my card as I peel it off. Okay, so that's the one that I use. I'm in the UK. It seems to be fairly widely available here and on Amazon, and if you're in the US and you can't get that brand, 3M do a similar professional decorators masking tape range that would have the same kind of properties, but you need something, as I say, with enough stick to hold things still. So I've got my piece of card here. Let me get my card back so we can see how that's going to look. Straight up that way. So I wanted the, okay, so there we go. So that's going to look something like that. I think will be quite good. Okay, so now for the topper. So for the topper, I'm going to do it on white card and then cut it out, because I've got dies that go with this set, the outside and the inside. Okay, and then I want it showing through onto another piece that's come from this same pad. So it would go, it would be something like that. So I cut this out thinking, oh, I'll stick that in the back, but then I thought it's going to be really difficult to line up the sentiment on that, because I want the sentiment on the background. So in a minute I'm going to do another piece for the sentiment that I haven't cut out, and then cut it out afterwards. But this has to go on here. I need to get that off. So this could just go on this piece of white card, and I am still going to use a magnet because that makes it easier to put down. But obviously precision isn't needed as much. I'm going to have some fresh tape, because although I've used this lots of times, it does gradually lose its sticky, and you gradually find things, if you're not careful, start to move. And because I'm only going to be doing this once, I'm just going to use the one piece of tape, but it's a decent sized piece of tape, and I've put it on the wrong side, which is something I want to keep doing. So that needs to go on that side. Okay, so I've got my foil stamp, and I need a piece of foil for it. Now normally I always say trim your foil, but because I'm going to be cutting this out, I'm not going to bother. So I'm going to put this on the glimmer, and I'm not going to use any lines to line up, because I say it's only something we're putting down once, so I don't need to line up the card a second time or anything like that. So that can warm up, and that's actually one of the Glimmer of the Month kits, but after the month, Spellbinders do just the foiling plates and dies without the rest of the kit, and quite often they're in their sales. So I've found that's a really useful, it's a lovely frame, but it also comes with a couple of different sentiments. It comes with this one, which is wishing you a year of magical moments, which I think is a lovely thing to say for someone's birthday. And also this dear little happy birthday sentiment, which I find actually really, really useful. Because quite often I've got foiling on the cards, I've got, you know, frames and decorative papers and all sorts of embellishments going, and then I just think, oh, I need to put happy birthday on it somewhere. So having a small one is really useful. Right, so that is warming up, hopefully. Did I press the button? Okay, it is warmed up. So I can put my foil on. Put my card down. I'm still going to put my piece of paper down because I don't know if it's sticking out or not. I'll just turn that so you can see what I'm doing. And when I'm pulling this out, I'm just putting my fingers against the base as I'm pulling the top out, and it just stops everything sliding quite so much. There's that foiled. I'm going to take this off, and I've already got this set up for magnet. I probably don't need the card quite that long though. I'm going to take that off. So again, I'm only going to be doing it once. So I'm going to put my tape on. I'm going to get this warming up while I sort out die cutting the frame. Put that down there. That off of there. And I always flip the card back so that isn't warming up at the same time. Tidy. So that's foiled nicely, so I can cut this out when I figure out which bit of the die goes where. Now, that's it. Right, that goes there. And actually, save me time in the future, I'm going to put a dot where the bottom of this frame is, because that will sort of show me which way up it goes, and that'll make it much easier in the future. I'm going to take the die down in several places, being careful not to put tape on the foiling because it will spoil the surface of the foiling. There we are. And I want the inner die as well, which is this one. And again, which way up does this go? Yeah, that way. And again, while I've got it lined up, I'm going to mark this bottom tip. Right, just need some tape. So I can die cut that. So that will be our frame. And it will fit over a piece like that. So we've got the pattern in the middle. Yeah. So I can now die cut the foil the sentiment. Just need some foil. I have a piece of foil. I've got a piece of foil. And it doesn't matter that's been sitting there waiting. It doesn't matter that's been sitting there hot for quite some time, because the card hasn't been over it, the foil's not been on it, so it's not going to overcook. If I had put the foil on it, and put it down and left it, then I may well have ended up with overfoiling. But because I hadn't, the actual foil stamp you cannot heat for too long. It will only get to the temperature that the hot foil platform gets to, and that's the temperature you want it at. Okay, so I've got my sentiment there. Now I need my die from here. This is why it's important to know which way up things go. I'm also going to need the foil stamp. I need that. Okay, so to get this lined up, let me just bring the camera in a bit. You see what I'm doing? Yeah, okay, so I've got my foiling here. Is that in focus? Let's make sure. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to put this over the top. But I actually want to put the die down first, but I need to make sure I've got the die in the correct orientation. Okay, so that spot at the bottom comes in handy, because I can fairly quickly see that's where the die would need to go, but I need it underneath the foil stamp. Okay, so now I can, because the foil stamp just will sit just a little bit proud, and I can then line that up, make sure the sentiment's going to be straight. So I've got my horizontal line. I think about there would do nicely. And then I can hold the die down, take the foil stamp back off, and then tape the die down in the right place. And then when I put my foiled frame over this, then my sentiment will be in the right place, I hope. No, I've got that. That'll be near enough, I think. Make sure that is straight. I'll make sure I've marked the... Yeah. Rotate just a little bit. Right. think I've got it the rotation just out a little bit. That's what's coming around there a tad. Here's the card. Just going to double check again. Yes, that'll be fine. And have I got it too far down now? No, that's fine. So I want those. I need to die cut. So whilst precision alignment wasn't such an issue with this, I did need to make sure the die would fit in the right place so that it didn't go. So I'm zoomed in. So I did need to make sure that the die because it's quite tight, was still going to fit. So I needed to make sure this was in the right place on this piece of card. So we can now see what the topper will look like. There we are. So let me see if I can just hold the whole thing together, and then you can get an impression of what the card would look like. I'm just going to temporarily make a loop of that, so I can get that to kind of sit still. It might be a bit wonky. And then the sentiment in the middle, and there would be my completed card. I'd put this up on some foam pads, and there you have it. So we've got foiling in the background and a foil topper. Okay, so hopefully that's given you some ideas. Whenever you're watching a video, don't think, oh, what are the exact things that have been used, and think you need them. Think about what you've got or what you might be thinking about buying, and use it as ideas to use with different foil stamps and dies. Different colours, different foils. You know, use the inspiration and use it with whatever you've got or whatever's new to the market. Quite often things like foil stamps are done as like limited runs, so by the time people like me are getting lots of ideas and using them, you might not be able to find them. They might have sold out already. So, but there's probably something new coming along that will be similar. So take the ideas, think about how things can be used, think about using things in different ways to the obvious, and you'll get much more out of your foiling stamps, dies, BetterPress plates. Okay, thank you for watching.